Welcome, gentlemen, viewers, everyone. It's your boy, HatedGreatness. How are you guys doing? What's the good word? And we're going right into an impressions review video for Koutetsujou no Kabaneri episode 4. Basically, start right where, and you gotta remember, this is something they consistently do in the show, I guess, to maintain the pace. I believe it ties in to the symbolism of the show, considering that they are literally on a train. Koutetsujou is a iron fortress, which essentially works the same way as a steampunk engine train would work. So the way that is there's different cars and compartments interlocked between each other, and they all go in a single line. Well, the show works this way. Every episode so far has immediately picked up where the previous episode did. It assumes that you're binge watching it, so you're watching it in a continuous stream. That each episode is a part of the car that is the Koutetsu. So, or maybe I'm overlooking it, who knows. Anyway, this episode starts off right after, episode 3. So we have Mumei, we have Ikoma, and basically they're dealing with the ramifications of being figured out. And what I mean by being figured out is their characters were more fleshed out, what they are and how they interact with people, especially Mumei. Mumei is shown to be more human, but she starkly reminds people that even though she is indeed very human in how she interacts and behaves, she has a light side, the whole interacting with the child and making the child laugh when it was crying. Even through all of that, she reminds them that she's hungry. Everyone else eats food, she can't do that because she is a Kabaneri. Kabaneri eat the same thing a Kabane would eat. Well, they need blood. And at first I was thinking, well, I've seen it done before where vampires that feed off of blood were able to survive off the blood of, rodents and animals and whatnot. I don't think this is going to be an option. At least it hasn't been displayed to be one right now. I believe that they have to have human blood. Basically, it starts off with that. She's being judged, Mumei, for her actions at the end of the last episode. People are looking down on her. They're frowning upon her for taking out the pregnant woman that you find out was actually a Kabane. She was infected. And it wasn't like she was infected, but they could have fixed it or reversed it. No. She had turned Kabane. She was marching. The physical alterations to her body had already taken place. She wasn't really responding to vocal stimuli the same way a human would, the way she would have beforehand. Mumei did what she always does to a Kabane. She put her down very quickly and efficiently, I might add. Now, my question was on the last episode, if you noticed, on my last video as well, Mumei didn't kill the woman necessarily. She stabs her in the upper chest area with the 2 blades she got from the, I suppose, military men that she took real clean off of them to go stab them too. So when she stabs the woman in the upper chest area, woman's down, does she die? I didn't think so, but apparently she did, based on the way she's being responded to. Also, I don't think the baby lives, even though I'm not even 100% clear on that either, because of the fact that again, where she was stabbed, the baby wasn't stabbed. We don't know how far along the baby was. I mean, theoretically, they could have taken the baby out, but Mumei itself says that the baby is tainted, as if to say that in situations like that, the baby isn't born and it's still human. If the mother becomes Kabane, then the baby inside of her becomes a Kabane as well. I honestly don't know. Going to Ikoma, we see where he was at exactly at the end of last episode as well. He's still in the same predicament. He seems to kind of be struggling with controlling the Kabane part of his Kabaneri self. That might be because of what happened beforehand, where Ayame tests him to show the display to the people who had doubts or stabbing him. Perhaps that loss of blood triggered something in him. It is also revealed that it's hunger-based. Who knows, honestly? I'm not exactly sure. They didn't even iron out exactly what led to it. We just know that hunger is part of it because Mumei is also hungry. So how often do these people have to feed? How much do they have to feed? These things are still being fleshed out for us. We'll figure out as we continue to watch the series. We were left on a cliffhanger at the end of the episode with the fate of Ayame. That she gets bitten by Ikoma. What would happen if a Kabaneri bit a human? Unfortunately, one of those questions we don't find the answer to because it doesn't happen. What ends up happening is Kurusu comes to save the day. And it's an outcome that makes sense, considering the fact that that's his job, and he probably wouldn't have liked leaving Ayame alone for an extended period of time anyway. This episode is very, very action-packed. And when I say action-packed, there are some beautifully animated sequences that go out through this episode. An example of which would be when the Kabane, while the train is moving, attack the Koutetsujou. The way they do so, it's very orchestrated. Remember, Kabane is supposed to essentially be zombies, and they're supposed to be mindless to an extent, but they seem to be pretty intelligent with how they mount attacks. And then we also find out something else that's a game changer. There's different types of Kabane. And the reason this is important is because if there's different types of Kabane, perhaps there's different types of Kabaneri. Ikoma and Mumei are not the same type of Kabaneri, even though they're both Kabaneri. Mumei has traits that Ikoma does not. Now, it might be just because of the age she was when she became a Kabaneri. Perhaps it's due to the process that led to her being a Kabaneri. I believe that those might be factors. The fact that her gender might be a factor as well, who knows? I also think it has something to do with the fact that there are just certain types of Kabaneri. For instance, Mumei seems to have much more control of her ability, partially due because she's been this way for a longer time and she has a better understanding than Ikoma of what she is. But also, she has a way of removing a restrictor on herself that increases her abilities. But there's a downside to this. Ikoma has not been shown to have that downside. Extended activity doesn't make Ikoma go into an essential coma-like state where you need to rest. It doesn't happen to him. So what I'm assuming it is that for Ikoma's type, he's a type of Kabaneri that's just, he can consistently go. Whereas with Mumei, she can go at a high level for a period of time and then she can't. But then again, who knows? That might all get tossed out the window. Ikoma might be able, like I said in the last episode, to remove restraints. And he has two to remove, so who knows? With the Kabaneri, I think what they're going to do is, the longer they are a Kabaneri, they kind of, instead of there being different types based on just who they are, perhaps it's a leveling up kind of thing. And the reason I say that is because the type of Kabane that we are introduced to in this episode is the Wazatori. The Wazatori, Mumei describes as a Kabane who is able to wield human weapons, has human fighting skills, very formidable opponent. And the reason it is a formidable opponent is because it has learned from its prior engagements and experiences fighting humans. The one that we see here, he's wielding samurai blades too at the same time, and he's not just aimlessly using them. No, he's using them with precision and skill. And we see that when he fights 1v1 with Kurusu. And they did this on purpose. Very well timed. They had Kurusu fighting by himself against other Kabane. And free, just bopping this, bodying cats, just slapping cheeks left and right. Kurusu, his action sequence, his skill with the blade is unparalleled. His movements were so clean and efficient. It was dope to see. Again, I'm a fan of the character. I'm like, this dude is, he's no joke. When we see him fighting and the way he dismantles the other Kabane, there's one where he slices the dude's head off, and that just brings questions to me because we've only seen one other person slice off a Kabane's head, and it was Mumei, who we know is a Kabaneri. So how the hell is Kurusu doing this? And he's human. There's something to this guy that we don't know. We also realize that apparently he's the only samurai of all the people on that train. I didn't know that. I assumed that all the people with him who are on guard duty were samurai. No, they're not all samurai. It's just that they're bushi, I believe they're called, and they're trained in fire weapons. Most of them aren't trained in the way of the samurai the way Kurusu is, which is why I really wish they would give the dude the name. The bigger fellow, the swole brolic dude with the red, who's a cool looking character as well. I don't think they've said his name, but he tells them, this is going to turn into a close quarters battle. Go get your blade. So Kurusu tosses him the gun, goes gets his blade, comes out and does work. When Kurusu was fighting one-on-one against the Wazatori, you see that the Wazatori, he fights him the way you would expect someone to fight that is trained in swordplay. It catches Kurusu off guard. He's like, how am I fighting a Kabane who's using blades? How am I fighting a Kabane that's trained and well conditioned with blades? There's a part where the Wazatori turns his back on Kurusu for a defensive technique, because remember, he's using two blades, where he parries my man's attack and gains the advantage and presses the action. Very beautifully animated. Again, you need to see this episode now. If you have not seen it, please pause this video, hit Control-T, open a new tab, and find where you gotta do what you gotta do to get it. I don't know if you stream it online, if you look up certain fan subbing to do it. If you're in Japan and it's on the air for you and you can hit that DVR or whatever, please do yourself a favor and watch this episode now. Don't delay. It is amazing. You get to see more characters kind of stepping up. Some people may think I'm nitpicking things, looking for symbolism in this show, but there's no way this is a coincidence that again in this episode we see Takumi, Ikoma's best friend. Not only is he again lumped in with him when the people are stupidly trying to turn their back on the Kabaneri, he defends him. He gets thrown back there with him for simply defending him. He's basically, the people were saying, well, if you're a Kabaneri lover, you're a Kabaneri, what you just saying. They were prepared to abandon all of them and let them die. And it's funny because their cowardice, their lack of honor led to the death of many people. That happening is why they died. A, because they were outside when the Kabane came to attack them, trying to detach that last car to abandon them. They got bopped. B, because they were locked in the train, they couldn't get out of that car to save those people. There was nothing they could do. Anyway, Takumi, when he is thrown in that room, once again, Ikoma is questioning his humanity. He's questioning if there really even is a difference between Kabaneri and Kabane. He's saying, you know what, maybe I am a Kabane. Maybe I did attack Ayame, because he doesn't remember. He blacked out. We find out because of the hunger. I think it's more than just the hunger, personally. I think it's the hunger and the stress of what happened to him. Losing blood, because remember, he was cut in his hand and on his body. Even though he can heal, he did at the time lose blood. Losing blood, the regeneration that a Kabaneri goes through, they need to feed in order to power that regeneration. So when Takumi goes back there with him, and Ikoma's already doubting himself and is ready to give up again, Ikoma does two things. He hands him with two things that literally symbolize who Ikoma is as a person. A, for the second time in this series, Ikoma picks up Ikoma's glasses and puts them on his face. There's no way that's coincidence. These are intentionally done things, intricately done things to convey a message to people watching it. Very well done. B, he hands him the gun he crafted to fight the Kabane. Why is that important? Because that gun literally symbolizes Ikoma's fight against the Kabane. It symbolizes him trying to protect humanity. It symbolizes him not wanting to give in to fear and wanting to fight and have the ability to fight, because that's why he even developed the gun in the first place. So he hands him the two things that are strong indicators of Ikoma as a person, as a character. They're going to keep doing that because that's partially his role. Takumi hasn't really developed as his own individual person yet. He's starting to. We saw in the last episode, he was trained to learn marksmanship, to learn how to use guns. He wants to be able to defend people too. He's probably starting to realize that people aren't trustworthy. He's gonna have to defend his friend. He's gonna have to defend Ikoma. He can't do that as he currently is. He has to learn how to fight. He is mainly defined, Takumi, as a character right now as Ikoma's friend, as Ikoma's anchor. That's what he is to Ikoma. There might be a point in time when Ikoma becomes an anchor for him too. We'll see. If I had to give this episode a review score, I guess 9 out of 10. And I say that, I can't think of a downtime in an episode. There's nothing, like, I have no complaints about this episode. This episode, it was very well done. It sequenced well. We learned a lot, and it presented even more questions. Because like I just said earlier, I honestly don't know if there's different types of Kabaneri. I don't know if there's different types. If there's I'm pretty sure there'll be more Kabane. We've just met a Wazatori, which is just one of them. I have a question about Kurusu. And this is because of what happened when he was fighting the Wazatori. He gets the upper hand. He flat out beats the Wazatori, which makes sense. He's better trained. In the fight, he was a superior technician. All the Wazatori had was the fact that he had the physical advantage. He was a Kabane, so he has superhuman strength and he can take far more damage. There's a point where Kurusu makes the mistake of trying to stab him in the heart, which would... I personally think he was trying to just knock him off the train, because that's how he took out most of them. He just disarmed them and tossed them off the moving train. I think he tried to do that to this one as well, but he makes the mistake of trying to pierce him in the heart, completely shattering his blade. Why is this important? Because if you look closely during the OP, Kurusu is holding a blade, but the blade doesn't look like anything like the blade that was destroyed, and it doesn't look like a regular blade. In fact, it's not even silver like most blades are. It's black with like a weird red encryption in it. And it looks as though it was designed, the blade is specifically designed, theory, completely, and you guys can let me know if you agree or disagree. I think that blade is designed specifically to dismantle Kabane. I think it's a Kabane killing blade. And I say that because in the OP, he is cutting down Kabane with no problem. He's using the techniques we've seen him use before. They're getting eviscerated. So I think that's going to end up happening as well, especially since the blade he has now is pretty much destroyed. So who knows? Also in this episode, Ayame does some really interesting things. Essentially, she relinquishes control of the Koutetsujou to the 6 chiefs, who kind of attacked her and panicked because of the events that happened in the last episode when they stopped to refill the water pump and when they stopped to have a funeral for the people who passed in the village that they had just left. So these people are kind of panicked, and of course, fears taking over them. They find out that the Kabaneri, A, still need to feed on blood, and B, with what happened to Ikoma, may slip into a daze and lose control of themselves and actually become Kabane-like for a moment. In response to that, they demand she relinquish control, which she literally does. She hands them the key. They lock the Kabaneri in the back car again, except the 6 chiefs were going to just release the car and abandon them. And before that, they threw all the people that were Kabaneri supporters or sympathizers or friends in there with them, and we're just going to abandon all of them. And that, of course, doesn't work out. In fact, that cowardice literally directly leads to all of their gruesome and painful deaths, which I enjoyed watching. Not because of the deaths part, but just because of how it happened to them. Or them showing that, again, we start to see that the Kabane are a lot more human than people were giving them credit for. Because that one man was screaming in fear when he was about to die, and the Kabane, the Watazori, screams at him, kind of in a way to mock him or mimic him, and then destroys him. It was kind of funny. The 6 chiefs take control, everything falls apart when they do. And then when they are pretty much destroyed and everything is in disarray, she literally steps up. And when I mean steps up, she is shown climbing the ladder and making the sacrifice herself to bring order back to Koutetsujou. She is without a doubt the leader on that train, and Kurusu is without a doubt her pillar, her support. Those two together are going to make sure that the people are safe. There's no one else that the people can really rely on. Those two people have their best intentions at heart and have the ability to actually get it done. Ayame is legitimately a leader in this series, and she's a really, really cool character. And she's not just a leader in speech alone. She's about that action, if you get what I'm saying. She literally gave herself to help them overcome the situation. All these characters are really cool. They're all really, really well done. There's no characters I dislike. I like all the characters for different reasons. I have no complaints about this series. Absolutely none. There's none about this specific episode. This episode is just, from top to bottom, well done. The animation is consistently beautiful. There's no hiccups at all in this one. If you have not seen this, go watch it now. Please do me that favor. Watch it and then come back. Comment below. Let me know what you thought of the episode. Let me know what you think of this video. If you have more theories, let me know. What do you guys think about my theory about Kurusu getting a blade meant to destroy Kabane? Maybe it's not even really a theory. I'm not sure if I'm the only one that's thinking of this. What do you guys think about the idea of there being more types of Kabane? We saw one in this episode. I'm sure there'll be others. What do you guys think about my theory about there being different types of Kabaneri? Or that the Kabaneri evolved the longer they are Kabaneri? Subscribe below, hit the like button. I really appreciate it. And as always, it's your boy Hated.